about 7 inches too tall. So thank you, Adam and John, for your perspective. So we've got the therapist in, we've got how we can better help family members with OCD. And now we have the pleasure of having Elizabeth McIngvale speak with us, and she has OCD. She gave me the liberty, actually, of giving her intro and said, just say whatever you want. So, here you go. She invented the rocket ship at the age of 6. She found the fountain of youth. She's really 107, but looks 25. But instead, I'm a good story maker-upper, so I'm just going to give you some facts about Elizabeth. At the age of 13, she was diagnosed with OCD so severe, her parents were told it was untreatable. CBT helped Elizabeth defy that early prognosis, and today she is living a manageable life. She received her master's in social work from Loyola University in Chicago, and is currently the holder of a PhD from the University of Houston. She's the founder of the Peace of Mind Foundation, which is was the first national spokesperson for the International OCD Foundation. She's a skilled public speaker and highly sought after guest for national television and radio programs. She believes that no one with OCD should suffer in silence and works daily to make adequate care available to all living with the illness. Elizabeth and her family have recently launched OCDchallenge.org, which is an interactive self-help website for those living with OCD. Through advocacy and public campaigns, Elizabeth hopes to stamp out the stigma associated with mental illness, and OCD Georgia is pleased to have her as a guest speaker today. Welcome, Elizabeth.
I usually take the mic and walk, and then I realized they were filming, so if I did that, it would probably be an issue. Can everybody hear me? Yes, okay, great. Thank you all for having me. First of all, thank you to Casey and Chris and all of the work that's gone into this event and this organization. OCD Georgia is an amazing affiliate, and I'm happy to be here. An extremely special thanks to Margaret with Riley's Wish Foundation, and of course OCD Georgia as well. I certainly wouldn't be standing here without Margaret reaching out, but more importantly, I think my journey to advocacy and my understanding of hope and healing and the things that can come from it come a lot from Riley. And the talk we did together 2 years ago at the conference, and then the talk Margaret and I and Chris Townsend did this year, I think we all have a lot to learn. And I think the reality is that we have an amazing community and we have an amazing network. And I think it's okay. I think Margaret would allow me to speak for her in saying that this community saves a lot of our lives. And when we're going through times that seem unimaginable, somehow we can rely on each other to make it through. So you're an amazing example to all of us, so we're really grateful to have you. Thank you all for being here. I know one thing Ethan talked about a couple years ago in a speech that I think is so important is that those of us with OCD and those of us that struggle, have struggled, or continue to struggle, we know what it's like and the pain you go through just to get up in the morning and make it here, right? How difficult it might be to get out of bed and to show up in this room. So thank you for that, because I understand it, I get it. Not years ago, but today, I still understand it and I get it, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So if you rewind many, many years ago, when I was 12, I kind of overnight started having, and I shouldn't say overnight because I get all this feedback every time I say overnight that I must have PANDAS, and I don't have PANDAS, so kind of be cautious when I say that. Overnight, I mean totally normal child to within a year or two, right, completely debilitated by my OCD. I was a competitive gymnast, did gymnastics most of my life, and really was kind of your typical child, right? Just enjoying friends, enjoying fun, was pretty carefree, was known as someone who was pretty talkative and loud, not that you could imagine that at all, and just enjoying life. I started probably around 12 years old, started having these bizarre, intrusive thoughts. I had no idea what they meant, no idea what they were. And the worst part is I didn't know what to do with them, right? I can remember my vocab was probably never very good as a kid, and I know spelling wasn't my big subject, but I can remember thinking to myself, why am I having these weird thoughts, but why am I engaging in these bizarre rituals? And I remember thinking, I don't even know what the word ritual means, but it seems to fit or make sense these behaviors that I'm doing. So kind of overnight, my OCD kind of continued from everything. So fear of hurting somebody, scrupulosity, intrusive thoughts, contamination, kind of you name it. Unfortunately, I had the whole gamut of different OCD obsessions and different OCD rituals. What I didn't know was who to talk to. You know, what I didn't know is who to turn to. And so I went inside, right? I turned inward. I started to think that I'd figure this out. I was weird, there was something wrong with me. Who could I talk to? What would people think? What would people say? As I said, I was a competitive gymnast before, so I was, you know, an active kid. I don't know, you would look at me and think, you know, she's normal and healthy. And pretty quickly, I became the opposite. I started losing a lot of weight, wasn't sleeping. And my parents knew something was going on, they just didn't know what. You know, they weren't sure if I was just a kid going through transitions, if school was tough, what was happening. I started asking my mom some weird intrusive thoughts, or started telling her weird intrusive thoughts and asking her some bizarre rituals or reassurance questions. And I'll never forget the night before my 7th grade camping trip. We had to go on this camping trip for school. I was supposed to stay at one of my best friend's houses because my sister was a year older and she was going to go on a trip to DC. So my mom was going to have to drive her to the airport to DC in the morning, so she was going to drive me to stay at a friend's house. And I started asking all these questions. You know, well, they put their dog in a kennel, and what if something happens and the dog gets hurt, Mom, and the dog dies? Do you think that'll be my fault? And what if I show up and in my bag I have the same clothes, you know, or the same color shirt that my friend's wearing to school? Do you think she'll be upset with me? And if she's upset with me, do you think she would hurt herself, and what could happen? And my mom kind of said, you know, Liz, let's just not go stay at her house. Like, it's no big deal. If it's causing you that much anxiety, just stay the night here. Your brother will take you in the morning to the camping trip. So we said, okay. So my brother, who was a 16-year-old, woke up the next morning to take me to the school, and this is years ago, so we had CD players, and we used CD discs, and he said, Liz, put this in the CD-ROM drive. And so I took the CD, and I started putting it in and out, and I just got stuck, and I couldn't put it in. And I remember my brother kind of wasn't sure what to do. He had never seen most of these behaviors. He wasn't around as much, he's 5 years older, so he wasn't really a part of kind of what was going on, although I was hiding most of what was going on. That day, it was just too hard to hide it, right? There was too many things at once, too many things going on that I couldn't pretend like it was okay anymore. So my brother called my mom, or talked to my mom that night after he dropped me off, and said, you know, Mom, I don't know what's going on with Liz, or if there's something going on with Liz, but I noticed all these kind of bizarre activities or behaviors. And she started putting the CD in and out, and she was asking me all sorts of questions about you, and if everyone was safe and what was happening. And my mom said, you know, I've noticed some things too, but I don't know what it is, and I don't know what's happening. So I went on the trip, and it was a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. We were staying in cabins, and I was having to stay with other people and a kid struggling with contamination alone. We know the difficulties that comes with that. I was unable to eat any of the food in the cafeteria because a lot of it was, besides a few prepackaged or items that were still packaged, I was afraid of contamination or getting someone else sick and what would happen. And so when my mom describes the story of picking me up from that bus, she'll tell you that as I took the steps off, her heart sank. You know, and as a parent in this room, for most of you, there's been that one time where you've looked at your child and said, something's wrong. She said I had lost quite a bit of weight through that week, and I was gaunt and exhausted and bags under my eyes. And it was the first time in my life I didn't care what my mom thought, because I had to tell her what was happening. I couldn't hide it anymore. So we got home that evening, and I'll never forget, she said, you know, Liz, if you tell me, I begged and pleaded for her to not make me go to school the next day. I just couldn't go. I couldn't be around people. I needed a day off. And I remember her saying, I'll make a deal with you. Either you don't tell me what's going on, you go to school, or you can be honest and tell me what's going on, and I won't let you go to school, but we'll talk about what to do. What can we do? How can we help? And so that's the first night I ever broke down. I really started telling her about all these rituals and thoughts, and for years I had cracked hands and they were bleeding, and I would tell my mom, you know, I had an allergic reaction to the soap, so she threw all the soap away. And I spent years of hiding, and I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't live a life where I was ashamed, or I was confused, or I was alone, because it was literally impossible. So over that I told my mom what was going on. She kind of didn't know what to do, didn't know what to say or how to process it, except that we'll figure this out. And so that's where my journey started of looking for help. I grew up in Houston. I still live in Houston, right? Fourth biggest city in the country. You'd think there'd be tons of OCD providers, lots of help available, and there wasn't. And so we went to provider, and we were told the same thing. We've never seen OCD like this. This is a case too severe to be treated. Things like, yes, she has OCD, but I can't help her. Or, oh, she has OCD and I'm going to help her and I'm going and playing the game of life every week with the therapist, just getting worse instead of better.